Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius. No chasing, no games, just presence, just power. That's it. That's the code. The secret that flips everything in your favor without you having to beg, chase, or impress anyone. You've been lied to, my friend. You've been told that the only way to keep someone interested is to constantly be available, overly nice, always texting, always proving. But here's the truth. The more you chase, the more they run. The more you play, the more they lose interest. Want to flip the script? Then it starts with you. Hey folks, imagine this. Two men walk into a room. One is loud, boastful, laughing too hard, trying to impress everyone like a magician at a children's party. The other, he's calm, grounded, speaks only when needed, but every word he says lands like a punch. Guess who gets remembered? Guess who draws eyes without even trying? It's the second one, because real power doesn't chase noise. It creates silence. That's what this is about. No chasing, no games. Just these 7 Stoic moves that make them obsessed. Not because you're manipulative, but because you're magnetic. Not because you're performing, but because you're present. You see, most people confuse attention with value. But attention fades. Presence stays. We live in a time where men are told to open up, be vulnerable instantly, text back immediately, always be available. But ask yourself, when was the last time that worked long-term? The truth is, constant availability kills mystery, emotional neediness kills desire, and chasing, it only proves you're not in control. But Stoicism flips the script. It teaches you how to be still in chaos, how to choose purpose over validation, how to control yourself before trying to win anyone else, and how to become unshakable in a world that's addicted to reactions. You don't need 10 texting tricks. You don't need to play mind games. You need moves that are rooted in discipline, in energy, in timeless truth. Think of the ocean. The calm, still depths are more powerful than the crashing waves on the surface. Most men live on the surface, loud, reactive, desperate for attention. But you're going deeper now. Because women, the world, energy itself, they respond not to chaos, but to control, not to noise, but to depth. And once you master that, you become unforgettable. You want to make them obsessed? Then stop performing, start building, start becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to chase, because everything worth having starts moving toward him, and not just in dating, but in business, in friendships, in respect. When you drop the act and move from a place of unshakable self-respect, everything changes. So I'm going to show you these 7 Stoic moves, not tricks, not hacks, but disciplines that turn you into a presence they feel even in your silence. This isn't for boys who want to play games. This is for men who are done chasing and ready to lead. Remember this affirmation: no more chasing. Say it out loud. Write it in the comments. Type it with full intention. No more chasing. That ends now. If you're feeling that shift already, show it. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay with me. We're just getting started. Number 1. Stillness is the loudest signal. The power of not reacting. The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength. Marcus Aurelius. They won't tell you this part, because if you knew it, you'd stop chasing. You'd stop reacting. You'd stop folding every time someone pulled away. Most people think attraction is built in action, that the more you text, call, chase, and explain, the more they'll feel you. But let's break that lie right now. Stillness, that's the real signal. That's the move that hits deep. Because silence, when rooted in self-control, is louder than any words you could ever speak. Picture this. A man stands in the middle of a storm, wind howling, people screaming, chaos all around. Everyone else is running, panicking, reacting. But he doesn't move. He doesn't flinch. He just watches, calm, unbothered, completely present. Now ask yourself, who do you trust more? The man who reacts like everyone else, or the one who doesn't even blink? That's the kind of man Stoicism builds. Not emotionless, but emotionally disciplined. Not cold, but composed. And in a world where everyone is quick to explode, to text back in all caps, to post some dramatic story to prove a point, that kind of man stands out like fire in the dark, because people don't chase what's available, they crave what's grounded. But here's the trap most fall into. They think if they don't react, they'll lose the connection, that if they stay silent, they'll be forgotten, that if they don't speak up, someone else will take their place. Fear creeps in. The fear of being misunderstood, the fear of being alone, the fear of not being enough without proving something. That fear, it's the exact emotion that weakens your presence, and that's where the lie grows. Society told them, if they're pulling away, chase them harder. If they're quiet, speak louder. If they're confused, over-explain. But the truth is, you cannot force someone to feel your worth. The more you try to convince them, the more they sense your insecurity. The more you react, the more they confirm their power over you. You want to be powerful? Learn to do nothing. When tested, stay still. When provoked, observe. When pulled, don't follow. When ignored, stay silent. Because that silence isn't absence, it's strength. It's the refusal to perform. And nothing makes them more obsessed than a presence that refuses to chase. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That's not just a quote, it's a rule of power. Most men get baited into emotional chaos. One cold message and they spiral. One unread text and they lose sleep. One rejection and they start apologizing for who they are. But the Stoic man, he doesn't move. Not because he's numb, but because he's in control. Imagine a woman throws emotional chaos your way, tests you, pulls back, throws little games your direction to see if you'll bite. Most men fold instantly. They start explaining, chasing, proving. But the one who doesn't flinch, the one who doesn't bite the bait, he confuses her. And that confusion, it's the beginning of obsession, because deep down people crave grounding. They want someone who doesn't move just because they do. They want someone who holds his frame, even when the room shakes. And it's not easy. I know. Silence feels risky. Restraint feels unnatural at first, especially if you've been wired to believe love equals effort, that more effort equals more worth. But hear me, love isn't loud. Real attraction isn't about chasing someone down, it's about being someone so centered that they begin to chase your peace. Stillness is intimidating to those who need chaos to feel secure. That's why it's such a powerful move. It disrupts their patterns. It shakes their need for control. It forces them to sit with themselves and ask why your calm feels so piercing. And that's when they begin to feel you. Not because you reached out, but because you didn't. Because real strength doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need approval. It doesn't beg to be seen. It stands still and becomes impossible to ignore. When they push and you don't pull. When they test and you don't react. When they walk away and you don't chase, that's when they feel your absence as presence. That's when obsession begins. You become unforgettable not by being loud, but by being still in the noise. You become magnetic not by chasing them, but by mastering yourself. You become the one they can't shake because you didn't fold like the rest. You stayed still. And that stillness, that's what burns into their memory. So today, start training yourself in stillness, in not reacting, in observing your emotions without letting them lead. That's what Stoicism teaches. It's not about feeling less, but about being ruled by less. not about suppressing your pain, but about holding it like a sword, not a weakness. Let the world run, let them play games, let them panic. You breathe, you pause, you stay, because when you do, the game ends, and you become the one they can't stop thinking about. Write this in the comments right now. Stillness is strength. Say it, claim it, live it, show them, show yourself, show the world that you're not here to play, you're here to lead. And trust me, what's coming next? It'll make everything that used to chase seem small. Stay with me. Number 2, purpose over pleasure. Why they crave the man who's not available. If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. Seneca. There's something different about the man who's not always there, who doesn't rush to reply, who doesn't orbit anyone's attention like a desperate planet. The one who seems to be somewhere else, always, lost in thought, building something, chasing something bigger than validation. And when they notice him, they don't feel ignored. They feel intrigued. They feel pulled toward him, like gravity, because they can feel it in his eyes, in his silence, in his timing. This man is on a mission, and they are not the mission. This is where most people lose the game before it even begins, because they enter relationships or interactions with empty hands, looking to fill a void. They think pleasure equals connection. That constantly showing up, constantly being available, constantly texting or calling will make them feel chosen. But the opposite happens. The more someone senses you're willing to sacrifice your time, your schedule, your goals just to be available for them, the more they lose respect for you. Not because they're cruel, but because subconsciously, we all desire someone who has something deeper pulling them forward. A man who chooses purpose over pleasure isn't hard to find because he hides. He's hard to find because he's busy. He's not hiding his energy. He's protecting it. He's building something others can't see yet. While the average person spends hours refreshing messages and waiting for replies, he's deep in his craft, his mind, his mission. And when they look at him, they don't see neediness. They see direction. They see fire. They see someone who doesn't need to be loved to feel alive. That's the obsession trigger. Now let's break a lie they've been told for years, that the more effort you pour into someone, the more they'll appreciate you. That constant attention equals deep connection. That being available 24/7 makes you relationship material. But here's the truth, and it might sting. The more you sacrifice your purpose for attention, the less valuable you become. Because people can feel when you're drifting, when you're using them as a distraction, when you're clinging instead of leading. People don't crave availability, they crave value. And nothing screams value louder than someone who has something so important, so meaningful, that not even love can distract them from it. That's why celebrities, athletes, entrepreneurs, those who are laser-focused, pull in obsession without even trying. Not because they're rich, not because they're famous, but because they move with purpose, and that movement is addictive. Now some will say, but if I don't show them I care, won't they leave? The answer is simple. Yes, the wrong ones will, and you should want them to. Because if someone needs your constant presence to feel secure, if they demand you give up your mission just to prove your love, they were never aligned with you in the first place. But the right ones, the ones who matter, they'll feel your absence and want to be part of your purpose. They won't need your time. They'll want your energy in small, meaningful doses because they respect what you're building. They will fight for a place within your world, not try to become your world. That's the difference. When you become the man who isn't checking his phone every 5 minutes, who isn't desperate to please, who isn't throwing away his evenings for shallow attention, people feel it. and the scarcity of your attention becomes power. Imagine this: two men texting. One sends hearts, compliments, responses within seconds, always there, always eager. The other, he vanishes for hours, sometimes a full day. But when he replies, it's intentional, grounded, short, but potent. Guess who they're thinking about all day? Not the one who's always there, but the one whose presence must be earned. That's the man of purpose. He's not playing hard to get. He's genuinely hard to get because he has something more important than validation to chase. And that purpose, that obsession with becoming something more, that refusal to trade depth for distraction, that's what makes them obsessed. Because everyone wants to feel they're with someone who's going somewhere. They'll wonder where you are, what you're doing, why you haven't replied, and it will drive them deeper into your energy. Because when you stop making others the center of your world, you become the sun, and everything else, it starts to orbit you. But let's not pretend it's easy. It's not. Choosing purpose over pleasure will feel like loneliness at first. You'll doubt yourself. You'll feel the pull to check your phone, to reach out, to prove something. And that's the test. The voice inside you will whisper, if you don't show them attention, they'll forget you. But that voice, it's your old self, the one who needed love to feel worthy, the one who was scared of being alone. And that version of you, he doesn't get to lead anymore. You're done chasing, you're done proving, you're done building your identity around how someone else reacts to you. From this moment forward, you build your identity around what you're becoming, not who you're entertaining. And when they finally reach out, and they will, they'll sense something different, that you weren't waiting, that you weren't frozen, that your energy kept moving forward, with or without them, and that will shake them. Because in a world full of people addicted to attention, your indifference to it makes you dangerous. Marcus Aurelius said, just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. The right thing is your mission, your health, your discipline, your mind. The rest, whether they stay or go, whether they text or ignore, whether they love or leave, that's just noise. You don't live in noise, you live in motion. And when they feel that, when they sense you've built a world they can't control, a mind they can't manipulate, a path they can't redirect, they don't just want you, they start needing access to you, not because you chased, but because you never did. So here's your affirmation. Purpose over pleasure. Type it in the comments. Say it loud. Say it with your chest. Let the world know what you're choosing now. You're not chasing anyone. You're chasing your future. Show them, show yourself, show the world what a man of mission looks like. And trust me, what's coming next is going to shake the entire room. Stay with me. Number 3, indifference to outcome, the move that drives them wild. This is where most people lose the battle before it even begins, not in action, but in expectation, not in effort, but in outcome. They don't get rejected and crumble. They crumble because they expected a certain response, and when it didn't come, their entire worth came crashing with it. But those who walk the Stoic path, they move with indifference, not cold-hearted, not numb, but completely detached from needing things to turn out a certain way. And that energy, that mindset, it's magnetic, because in a world of people addicted to reactions, the one who doesn't flinch becomes unforgettable. They can feel it when you don't care how they respond, not in a cruel way, but in a powerful way. The kind of energy that says, I'm here, but I'm whole either way. And that wholeness, that self-contained presence, it drives them insane, because most people are used to others bending, explaining, proving. But when you show up with a calm so grounded that not even rejection moves you, you flip the power dynamic completely. You become the one they can't figure out, the one they can't shake, the one they begin to chase. You want to know why this works? Because most interactions today are transactional. I'll give you this attention, you give me a reaction. I'll chase you, and you reward me with validation. But when you operate from a place of indifference to outcome, you break the cycle. You show them that you don't play emotional ping-pong, that your presence isn't a performance, that your interest isn't desperation, it's choice. And that's when the shift happens. That's when the obsession begins. Let's break a dangerous lie people live by, that in order to succeed with someone, you must constantly adjust your energy to match theirs. If they pull away, you get closer. If they act cold, you try harder. But this is emotional slavery disguised as effort. It trains you to seek permission, and the more you do it, the more you teach others that your worth is up for negotiation. The Stoic man? He doesn't play that game. His energy is stable, whether accepted or rejected, whether seen or ignored, whether loved or left. Think of fire. It doesn't care who gathers around it. It burns the same, alone or surrounded. That's the kind of presence you're building. You're not chasing people to keep them warm. You're becoming so powerful in your own flame that they come to you. The average person fears this idea. They think indifference means losing love. But it's not about detaching from love. It's about detaching from needing control. That's real freedom. To give without demanding. To walk without watching the mirror. To speak without expecting a script. Most never reach this level because they're addicted to outcomes. Addicted to applause, addicted to someone else's reaction as proof they're enough. But that's not Stoicism, that's survival. And survival will never make you magnetic. When you finally let go of needing the story to play out your way, that's when things fall into place. Because now, you've stopped chasing a fantasy and started living in reality. You've stopped adjusting your truth for temporary peace. You've stopped begging the future to look a certain way and started building a self so solid that no future could shake it. Imagine they test you. They stop responding. They pull back, hoping to see if you'll come crawling. And instead, you go silent, not out of punishment, not out of ego, but because you genuinely have other things to focus on. Your growth, your mission, your peace. You don't go posting cryptic messages. You don't start over-explaining your worth. You don't collapse in a storm of, "What did I do wrong?" You just move forward, calm, silent, unbothered. And that silence, that's what breaks them. Because it's not that you didn't care. It's that you cared without attaching, that you showed up without needing a reward, that you engaged without making them your God. And that kind of energy is rare. That's the energy of someone who has already rehearsed loss, who has sat in solitude, who has practiced letting go. And once you've trained yourself to not fear the outcome, no one can use it to control you. Epictetus once said, "Never say about anything, 'I have lost it,' but only, 'I have given it back.'" That's Stoicism. That's what it means to live untouchable, to see every departure not as a loss, but as a release. To see silence not as punishment, but as peace. To walk away not out of bitterness, but because you're unwilling to betray yourself. And here's the twist. They feel this deeply. When you stop needing their energy, they start craving yours. When you stop fearing their silence, they start fearing your indifference. When you stop playing, they realize they were never in control, because no one is more unforgettable than the one who never fought to be remembered. But it's not easy. This kind of freedom is painful at first. Your mind will scream for closure. Your ego will beg for clarity. You'll be tempted to reach out, to explain, to fix. But that's the moment of transformation. That's the test. Can you sit with the discomfort? Can you breathe through the uncertainty? Can you let the story be unfinished and still be whole? Most people can't. But you're not most people. You're not playing to be liked. You're not performing to win anyone back. You're building something deeper, a presence, a power, a self that doesn't need the outcome to be okay. A soul that's already full before they ever respond, react, or return. So next time you feel that panic rising, when the message goes unanswered, when the connection starts to fade, when the old patterns of needing validation kick in, pause, breathe. Remind yourself, they don't determine my worth. The outcome doesn't determine my strength. My value isn't written in their reaction. And then, return to your silence. Because your stillness, your indifference, your refusal to flinch, that's the very thing that will echo in their mind long after everyone else fades. You won't be remembered for how hard you chased. You'll be remembered for how boldly you stood still. Type this in the comments right now. Outcome doesn't control me. Let it be your reminder. Let it be your declaration. Show them, show yourself. Show the world that you don't move for applause. You move because you're free. And freedom? That's what makes them chase. That's what makes them obsessed. Stay with me. What's coming next will show you how mystery, self-control, and quiet strength rewrite the rules of connection forever. Number 4. Mysterious self-mastery. Why they obsess over what they can't fully reach. The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. The mind that no one can fully enter, the one that's guarded, silent, and unshaken, is the one they cannot forget. Not because it's arrogant, not because it's cold, but because it's deep. And depth, true depth, is terrifying and addicting at the same time. Most people live on the surface. They share everything, say everything, post everything. They bleed emotions online and call it being real. But the rare ones, the ones who don't overshare, who move quietly, speak intentionally, and only let others see fragments of their inner world, those are the ones who haunt the memory long after the moment is gone. See, when you give away all of yourself too quickly, there's no mystery left. There's no chase. There's no discovery. You become predictable, accessible, and eventually forgettable. That's what happens to the average man. He thinks telling everything will build trust, connection, attraction. So he opens up instantly. He trauma dumps, over-explains, talks too much, trying to prove he's deep by being emotionally naked within days. And at first, it may feel good, it might feel close, but quickly they feel something else. The thrill fades, because they've already seen all the rooms in your house, and you left the front door wide open. Mystery isn't about playing games. It's about having a self so vast, so disciplined, that you don't feel the need to put it on display to feel valuable. That's what makes people obsessed. When they sense there's more to you, but you're not in a rush to let them see it. When your silence carries more weight than most people's paragraphs. When your eyes speak, but your lips remain controlled. That's not ego, that's self-mastery. That's what drives them mad. Because they don't want to be told everything. They want to discover something. They want to feel they earned access, that you let them in, slowly, intentionally, piece by piece. Not because you needed to be seen, but because they proved they could respect what they saw. But when you hand it all over at once, there's no magic, no curiosity, no depth, just exposure. And exposure without value becomes noise. It becomes background. It becomes average. They want to feel like there's a hidden chamber inside you, a part they can't access unless they evolve themselves. That's the true power of mysterious self-mastery. It doesn't say, look at me. It says, grow enough to meet me. That's when attraction becomes transformation. when connection becomes elevation, because now you're not just someone they're interested in, you become a mirror for their own growth. But let's be honest, it's not easy to withhold, especially if you've been trained to believe that vulnerability equals value, that if you don't open up instantly, they'll lose interest. That being reserved means you're closed off. That's the lie. That's the trap. Vulnerability is only powerful when it's earned, when it's protected, when it's offered by choice, not by fear of losing someone. If your truth is a gift, treat it like one. Don't hand it to those who haven't proven they can hold it. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And that's exactly why most people overshare. They imagine rejection before it even happens, so they try to connect faster by bleeding out everything. But the Stoic man doesn't fear rejection. He doesn't race to fill silence. He sits in it. He owns it, because he knows his story, his thoughts, his emotions. They are his, sacred, controlled, rare. And that rarity is what makes them unforgettable. Imagine two conversations. One where someone pours out every thought, every trauma, every wound on the first night. You feel overwhelmed. There's nothing left to discover. Now imagine someone who listens more than they speak, who answers honestly but never too much, who shares little pieces of their past but never explains it all, who never seeks sympathy but commands curiosity. That second one, you'll think about them all night. You'll try to figure them out. You'll replay their words because they said so little but meant so much. That's not manipulation, that's discipline. And that's what Stoicism trains you for, not to become emotionless, but to become unleakable, to stop leaking your energy, your soul, your wounds just because silence feels awkward. You don't owe your truth to everyone. You owe it to yourself first. And when someone is truly worthy, truly safe, truly aligned, they'll earn it naturally over time through their consistency and their presence. Not because they demanded it. The world doesn't need more loud mouths. It needs more grounded men. Men who observe more than they speak, who speak when it matters, who don't fear being misunderstood because they've made peace with being unknown. That's the rarest power, to walk into a room and not need to explain yourself, to say less but be felt more, to let your energy speak before your words do. That's the power they crave, the silence that doesn't ask for approval, the presence that doesn't dance for attention, the mystery that isn't a trick but a result of a man who has tamed his own chaos. They can feel that. They sense when you're not trying to be liked. And that's what makes them obsessed. Because they realize you don't need them to validate your depth. You already know who you are. This level of control isn't built in a week. It's forged in silence. In saying no when you could say yes. In sitting with your thoughts instead of spilling them everywhere. In choosing to protect your energy instead of performing for others to feel comfortable. It's not about being cold, it's about being centered. And once they feel that centered energy, they start leaning in, slowly, curious, desperate to understand the man who never feels the need to be understood. Write this in the comments now. I protect my peace. Let the world know that you're not here to be figured out in one night. That you're building a presence that speaks without noise. That your silence is not emptiness, it's precision. Show them, show yourself, show the world that you are no longer giving away your soul just to be seen. You're becoming the one they remember, because they never got all of you. Stay with me. What's next will take everything deeper. The next move will test if you can hold your frame even when everything's pulling you to bend. Let's keep going. Number 5. Boundaries that don't bend, the silent power that commands respect. No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus. Most people think boundaries are about words, about yelling, blocking, explaining why they feel disrespected. But real boundaries, the kind that hit deep, they're not spoken, they're felt. They're enforced through calm action, not emotional reaction. And in a world full of bending, breaking and begging, the one who stands still, who doesn't explain, doesn't argue, doesn't flinch, that's the one they remember. That's the one they fear losing. That's the one who commands respect without ever raising their voice. You see, boundaries aren't about keeping others out. They're about keeping yourself intact. They're the invisible lines that protect your energy, your time, your values. And the truth is, most people don't really have them. They think they do, until they're tested, until someone starts pulling away, until they're threatened with silence, until they feel rejection in the air. That's when the average person folds. That's when the boundaries collapse. But the Stoic man, he doesn't collapse. He doesn't chase after disrespect and call it empathy. He doesn't lower his standards just to keep someone around. He holds the line, always. Imagine a storm pushing against a wall, rain, wind, chaos all smashing against it. If that wall shakes or cracks, the storm wins. But if it holds, calm, still, grounded, the storm eventually moves on. And that's exactly what happens in relationships, in conversations, in emotional chaos. When someone pushes you, tests you, disrespects you, how you respond tells them everything they need to know about your worth. If you bend, they know your standards were negotiable. If you react emotionally, they know your peace can be stolen. But if you stay still, if you withdraw your energy without a word, if you enforce your boundary with presence instead of protest, now they're confused, now they're challenged, now they start seeing you differently. Because people don't respect words, they respect consequences. They respect the moment they realize they don't have access to you like they thought, that you're not like the rest, who tolerate anything just to stay connected, that you'll walk away, not to teach a lesson, but because you don't play with your principles. And once they feel that, once they realize you don't flinch when tested, you become untouchable. But let's make something clear. Setting boundaries will not always feel good. It will feel like you're losing people. It will feel like isolation, like silence, like distance. And that's because the people who benefited from your lack of boundaries won't like your growth. They'll try to guilt trip you. They'll say you're too harsh, too cold, too distant. That's when you'll be tempted to go back, to over-explain, to break your own rules just to feel safe again. But safety at the cost of your self-respect is never safe. It's slavery, quiet, emotional slavery. The man who's mastered himself doesn't live in fear of losing people. He lives in fear of losing himself. That's why he holds the line. That's why he doesn't chase when ignored. That's why he doesn't justify his standards. He knows what he brings. He knows what he protects. And he knows that anyone who can't respect the boundary was never worthy of crossing it in the first place. Think about how most people operate. They say things like, "I'm not going to tolerate this," but then respond to late messages, make excuses for being ignored, keep giving second chances to disrespect. That's not a boundary. That's a performance. That's a plea for approval wrapped in tough talk. But real power doesn't talk. It acts. Quietly, clearly, immediately. When the energy shifts, when the tone turns cold, when the respect disappears, the man of discipline removes himself. No drama, no explosion, just absence. And that absence, that's what echoes louder than any words could. There's a silence that follows the man who doesn't beg, a calm that follows the man who walks away. Not because he stopped caring, but because he started caring about himself more. That's what boundaries are. They're self-respect in action. And when enforced correctly, they don't just protect you, they elevate you. They separate you from the crowd. They create a gravitational pull. Because now people realize your attention isn't cheap. Your presence isn't a default. It has to be earned, maintained, respected. It's not about being rigid or heartless. It's about being clear. You can have empathy and still have edges. You can love deeply and still say, "This doesn't align with who I am." You can be calm and still walk away without a second word. That's what they don't expect. They expect reaction, anger, pleading, emotional chaos. But when you don't give them that, when you just remove your energy without explanation, that silence becomes unforgettable. It shakes their foundation, because they were prepared for a storm, not for stillness. And it's not about punishing anyone. It's about protecting your core, your time, your mental clarity. You don't hold boundaries to control others. You hold them to control yourself, to remain in integrity, to remind yourself that peace is not something you negotiate, it's something you guard. And that presence, that clarity, that discipline, it becomes your signature. It becomes the very reason people become addicted to your energy, because it's rare, because it's rooted, because it doesn't chase chaos, but ends it. They begin to see you differently, not as someone who needs them, but as someone they need to rise up for. That's what happens when you stop bending. You stop being seen as an option, and you become the standard. Write this in the comments now. I hold the line. Let that be your affirmation. Let that be the energy you walk into every room with. Calm, grounded, unshaken. You're no longer explaining your worth. You're enforcing it, quietly, consistently, without apology. Stay with me. The next move will take this even deeper. We're not just removing the performance. We're stepping into real power, the kind that doesn't ask for love, the kind that makes it inevitable. Let's keep going. Number 6. Peace with solitude. Why the one who doesn't need anyone is the one they can't resist. It starts with silence, the kind of silence most fear. Not the silence after a text goes unanswered or after a conversation fades. This is deeper. This is the silence of solitude, the kind that echoes in your own mind, the kind that exposes every craving, every insecurity, every part of you that once needed someone else to feel complete. And most people, they run from it. They fill it with distractions, validations, noise. But the rare ones, the 1%, they sit in it, they welcome it, they make peace with it. And that's what makes them dangerous. That's what makes them magnetic. Because the person who is whole alone becomes the one everyone wants to be around. Not because they beg for company, but because their solitude radiates strength. It's not about being antisocial. It's about not being addicted to interaction. It's about being so rooted in your own presence, so familiar with your own silence, that no one can shake you with theirs. That's where real power is born, not in company, but in aloneness. Think about it. Most people live like emotional addicts, jumping from conversation to conversation, person to person, connection to connection, just to avoid the emptiness they feel when it's just them and the quiet. They think their worth is found in how many people text back, how many followers they gain, how often they're needed. But all of that? It's noise, temporary, fleeting, addictive, and worse, it's a trap. Because the second the replies stop coming, the second the attention fades, they collapse. They start doubting their value. They spiral into loneliness, because they never learned how to sit with themselves and not go mad. But the Stoic doesn't run from solitude. They embrace it. They understand that loneliness and solitude aren't the same. Loneliness is the hunger for external stimulation. Solitude is the nourishment of internal alignment. And when you operate from solitude, real, chosen solitude, you stop performing. You stop chasing. You stop begging the world to give you something you've already given to yourself: peace. And that peace? That's what drives others wild. Because when they interact with you, they don't feel pressure. They feel presence. They don't feel like you need them. They feel like you're whole without them. And that's when they start chasing, because now they're not trying to fix you. They're trying to earn access to the world you built without them. And that world, it's rare, it's calm, it's powerful, it's protected. That's the kind of world people obsess over. They'll wonder how you stay so calm when you're alone. They'll wonder how you're still smiling, still building, still thriving without needing constant validation. They'll ask themselves, why aren't they reaching out? Why aren't they reacting? And that's when the shift happens. That's when obsession begins. Not because you did anything, but because you didn't. Because you were too focused on yourself to notice their absence. And in that absence, they began to feel yours. But let's not pretend it's easy. Solitude is a furnace. It burns away all the fake identities, all the people-pleasing, all the empty connections that once made you feel full, and it leaves you with just you. At first, that can feel like death, the death of your old self, the version of you that couldn't go an hour without checking the phone, that measured your value in responses, that thought attention meant affection. But once that version dies, what's left is something unshakable. You begin to see time differently. You stop wasting it on shallow conversations. You stop giving it to people who don't respect your presence. You use it to build, to heal, to think, to move in silence while others scream for validation. And slowly, your energy shifts. Your presence sharpens. You start walking into rooms differently, not looking around to see who notices you, but looking straight ahead, focused on your own mission. And people feel that. They don't know why, but they feel it, and it pulls them in. There's nothing more attractive than someone who doesn't need you, but still chooses to connect. Because that connection now feels sacred. Not desperate, not clinging, not a transaction, but a choice. And when you become the kind of person who's already at peace with their solitude, every interaction you have becomes stronger, cleaner, freer, because you're not trying to get anything from anyone, you're just sharing what you already have. That's what they crave, that's what they obsess over, and it's funny. Once you make peace with being alone, you start attracting more people, not because you want them, but because your energy has stopped repelling them with desperation. You're no longer asking the world to complete you. You've already completed yourself. And that completion, it radiates. It becomes undeniable. They want to be near it. They want to understand it. They want to feel it, because they've never felt anything like it. That's why solitude is a power move. It's not the absence of connection. It's the foundation of it. And without that foundation, you'll always be chasing, always be performing, always be bending your soul just to feel whole. But when you build from solitude, you build something no one can take from you. Not silence, not rejection, not absence, because nothing outside you controls what's already whole inside you. Socrates knew it, the Stoics lived by it, and now it's your time to stop fearing being alone and start mastering it. Your time to stop chasing connection and start becoming the kind of person who creates it effortlessly. Your time to stop begging to be seen and start being so still, so centered, so self-contained that you're impossible to ignore. Write this in the comments right now. I thrive in solitude. Let it be your power statement. Let it be your reminder that peace isn't found in their reply, it's found in your silence. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you no longer run from the quiet, you lead in it. Stay with me, because what's coming next is the final move, the one they never expect, the move that flips the entire game. Let's keep going. Number 7. The courage to walk away. Why the one who can leave is the one they can't let go. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Seneca. There comes a moment in every connection where a line is crossed, a subtle shift, a message read but unanswered, a tone that turns dismissive, a boundary ignored. And in that moment, most people hesitate. They tell themselves it's not that deep. They make excuses. They lower their standards and silence their intuition because they fear what will happen if they walk away. But the rare few, the Stoic few, they don't hesitate. They don't plead. They don't justify. They don't wait for a second strike. They walk quietly, without drama, without warning. And it's that silence, sharp, sudden, unbothered, that becomes unforgettable. Because the one who has the courage to walk away doesn't walk from weakness. They walk from strength, not from bitterness, but from clarity. They know what they bring, they know what they stand for, and they know the price of staying somewhere their value isn't seen is always more painful than the price of solitude. That's the kind of energy that doesn't beg to be kept. It demands to be missed. Most people live in fear of loss, fear of being alone, fear of not being chosen, and that fear makes them weak. It makes them tolerate things they once swore they'd never accept. It makes them explain themselves to people who don't deserve an explanation. It makes them stay in places where their soul is starving just to feel the illusion of connection. But that kind of life, that's not strength, that's not presence, that's performance. Survival, a watered-down version of existence that keeps them busy but never fulfilled. Walking away is a spiritual decision. It's the loudest act of self-respect you'll ever make, especially when everything in you wants to stay. It's not about punishing the other person. It's about protecting the future version of yourself. The version that refuses to beg for clarity, that refuses to chase people who forgot how rare your presence is, that refuses to argue about things that should be sacred. The Stoic doesn't leave because they're cold, they leave because they're clear. Clarity is a weapon. It cuts through the noise, it kills the lies we tell ourselves. And one of the biggest lies is this: if I stay a little longer, they'll see my worth. No, they won't. The longer you stay where you're not respected, the more they assume you don't respect yourself either. The more you explain your pain, the more they learn how to inflict it. The more you tolerate the gray area, the more you fade into it. But when you stop speaking, when you stop showing up, when you simply walk and never look back, that absence becomes a mirror. And what they see in that mirror is everything they lost but never earned. Most people will never understand the strength it takes to walk away, not because you stopped caring, but because you cared enough to stop betraying yourself. That's real emotional discipline, the kind that makes people rethink how they treated you, because while everyone else fought for attention, argued for closure, and played out messy endings, you left like a storm, silent, complete, devastating, and the world remembers storms. The truth is, people don't become obsessed with those who chase them. They become obsessed with those who had the strength to disappear without explanation. The ones who didn't flinch when the energy shifted. The ones who stayed composed when the game started. The ones who said nothing, and in that silence, said everything. Epictetus said, "Never say about anything, 'I have lost it,' but only, 'I have given it back.'" That's the mindset. That's how the Stoic moves through heartbreak, betrayal, or rejection. They don't see it as loss. They see it as release, as redirection. As a test, they chose to pass by, refusing to beg for love that had already rotted at the roots. Walking away isn't just about people, it's about patterns. About unlearning the idea that your value must be proven, about deleting the need to be understood by those who never tried to understand you, about finally deciding that your peace matters more than their presence, that your future deserves more than their inconsistency, And when that moment clicks, when you finally choose yourself without apology, that's when everything shifts. They won't see it coming, because they thought you were like the rest. The ones who always came back, the ones who fought to stay, the ones who couldn't handle the silence. But you weren't the placeholder. You were the standard. And they'll realize that too late, in your absence, in your stillness, in the fact that you never reached out to explain your worth. And maybe they'll try to come back. Most do. They'll test the waters, send a casual message, like a photo, comment on a story. But here's the part most fail. When they return, you don't. You don't respond. You don't invite them back into the life they walked out of because your peace was built in their silence. And now, you won't trade it again. This is where power lives, not in being needed, but in being willing to be alone rather than be disrespected. The courage to walk away is the courage to evolve, to rise, to become a version of yourself that doesn't settle. And yes, it's hard. Yes, it hurts, but growth always does. And nothing grows in spaces where your dignity dies a little more each day. So now, ask yourself, what are you holding on to that's holding you back? What energy are you still chasing that has never matched yours? What conversations are you still rehearsing in your head that should have ended with your silence months ago? Be honest, and then make a move. Write this in the comments now. I walk in power. Let that be your new identity. Let that be the energy you embody from this day forward. You don't chase, you don't beg. You don't wait for permission to leave what's hurting you. You walk with grace, with fire, with unshakable dignity. And once you do, once you stop asking for a seat at a table that never fed your soul, you don't just find peace, you become it. You become the one they think about long after the noise dies down, the one they can't replace, the one they'll never truly get over, all because you had the strength to walk away. Stay with me. The final message is coming, and it will bring every move together into a mindset they can never touch. Let's finish this. In conclusion, every move you've just learned isn't about impressing them. It's about becoming unshakable within yourself. These Stoic traits build power that doesn't chase, it attracts. If you're ready to live that truth, like this video, share it, and subscribe for more fire that awakens your inner force.